he's recognized nationally as one of the top experts in the area of premium financing, and especially in the estate planning market. He's a member of the MDRT's top of the table, and approximately 20 years ago, Ken decided to forego all other aspects of his agency and focus exclusively on the premium financing market. I can tell you from personal experience, I've worked with Ken on a number of large estate planning cases, and there's no one in this premium financing space like Ken Buckley. So I think you're really going to like the information that he explains today. Ken, welcome.
Thank you, Don. First, I want to thank Insmark for having me. And then also, I want to thank Tony for setting this up, and especially Don. We've worked with Insmark for several years, and I really enjoy working with them because they've got one of those tools that everybody that's on this conversation can use on a daily basis. And they are a huge asset to the insurance industry. I'm going to start with just a little background of who I am. I started the Buckley Group back in 1979. I didn't get into premium financing until IUL came around in the 90s. I did do a few cases of whole life. And then what I ended up doing is getting into when the IUL came in 1999, I started using that product in getting my own banks after 3 or 4 years of working with banks that I couldn't get the proper type of financing that I needed for my particular scenario. So right now we work with a couple dozen banks. We get as high as 20. We have a few cases with a few that we do for just customization periods, but we're an unusual type of company. So without further ado, I'm going to pull up the screen. So I won't be able to see anybody, but the chat room, you can put questions down. And what we'll do is we'll answer a lot of those questions at the end. And we'll give you the information on how to get in touch with us if any of these scenarios work with you. What I like really doing is showing you exactly what we do at the Buckley Group. So again, I started my company in 1979. We do insurance, insurance, and insurance. So we have no type of investment products. I get rid of all my Series 6, 63, and I'm a lifetime member, top of the table. So we produce a pretty large amount of premium every single year to maintain that. We're actually right now with lifetime members. We don't even have to submit our production, but we do every year. And what we're going to do is premium financing still works at high interest rates. Part of the problem that you're having with these high interest rates, how do you get the collateral or the client to pay additional monies in interest? So we've worked on a couple things to do that with. And really, one of the things we've done with the interest rates is if you take a look going back to March of 2022, 11 times in an 18-month period, interest rates went up. And the question I always have is, how much have they gone down over the last couple of years? I've been hearing for the last almost 36 months, we're going to have a 2%, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times reduction in interest rates. Hasn't happened. So what we've done during that period of time, quite simply, is we've turned around and taken a couple routes. Number one, we have a rate of 3.5 that a lot of our clients buy down to that rate. This is automatically going, Joe. I didn't push anything. So could you stop that? We got a little bit of a glitch on our system here. Thank you. Yeah, I just want to do it myself, or you can do it. That'll be fine. It went on its own. So basically, what we do, we buy down the rate. So for every $7,000 per point per 1 degree that you want to go down, is what the cost is per $1 million of premium. So you're looking at $7,000 cost to get out with $1 million premium to buy down your rate per point. So if you wanted to buy it down to, say, from right now, our lowest, well, we have a fixed rate of 5.14, or you buy down the rate to, say, 3.5, it's going to cost you a little over $24,000 to get that rate down to that for your first year's premium. So what's happening here, buddy? So we have some kind of a problem. We'll continue to do it through the method of slowly, but we might have to go back. Apologize for that. Collateral effect. Collateral goes up. One of the problems that has happened is we've got the collateral going up. Interest payments increase. So caps decrease. Cost of insurance and advent and rider costs. The number one thing I want to talk about, collateral has gone up a ton. Why has collateral gone up? Basically because some people roll the interest. If your client is rolling all of the interest and the interest rate has gone to 6.5, 5.5, 5.4, it doesn't make a difference when it was 2 and 3% 5-6 years ago. Makes a big difference when you're paying double and triple that, especially as the loan gets bigger. So with these interest rates increases, what have we seen? Well, when we were taught about how IUL worked, it was very simple. So if you had a bucket of $1,000, and that's the insurance company that has that bucket in the IUL, $950 went into the general portfolio. Then that would go through the year, and your $1,000 bucket would then turn back into $1,000. But that $50 would buy options. That's a simplified way of putting it. But what they said was the effect of interest rates going up, for example, instead of it being per se 5%, but if the interest rate went up to roughly 5% to 6%, then what would happen is the $940 would go into the general portfolio, which allows $60 to buy the options. This example of 60 instead of 50 buying the option would get you a 14% cap versus a 12% cap. But with the general portfolio, and I understand that insurance companies react a lot slower than regular interest rates. It's not a SOFR rate where every 30 days it can go up or every day it can go up. It's not a prime rate that is pretty steady. What happens with the insurance companies, they take a period of time before they increase. But 3, 4, 5 years, some of these cap decreases go back, please.
I don't know why it's doing that.
Well, you better figure it out. I don't know if it's on this. Tony,
someone touching something to make the slides go?
They should not be moving on our end, Tony. Okay, so
no, I can't have any control over your slides. It's all on your end.
Okay, thank you. So we have some kind of an issue here. So basically, let's go to the caps. What happens with the caps? They've gone down, and they shouldn't have gone down. And so many insurance companies out there are now we're lowering their caps to points where it didn't make a difference what you got for return, but your arbitrage is negative. If you got a cap that's 5%, 4%, 5.75, we've seen 6% caps, and I'm going to show you this in a few examples. And your cost of insurance is rising because you're going into year 3, 4, 5, 6. And then if you have the admin costs and the rider costs, a lot of these policies were not designed for this type of scenario. So now you have a negative arbitrage, you've got a problem. Now we've been able to fix this problem, and we're going to show you actual cases of clients that if you join us and you join the Buckley Group and you start doing business with us, we can have you talk to those clients that have had this situation happen and how we've saved it. So cap decreases has been something that's happened in the industry, and it really bothers me. And you've seen it with a lot of companies. There's a fish that jumps in the water that I can think of off the top of my mind. They just basically said, we're no longer supporting the products that we've sold in the past. We're starting with a new version of the product, and we're lowering caps. Imagine being a client sitting in that. And that's some clients out there that are listening right now. And that's sad. So let's go to the next slide, take a look. Some of our studies that we've done, number one, we're going to pay down with cost basis. So when people pay life insurance policies, everybody knows how it works. There's a certain amount of money that's a cost basis for the insurance. The profit on that is on addition to that. So some of the things we've done, we've lowered, and you'll see this in samples, taken that money, paid back the loan, which lowers the interest rate that you're paying out of your pocket. And as long as you can lower the cost of the insurance, many times you can maintain the same death benefit. And in some cases, we've increased the death benefit and lowered the collateral by just rolling the money over because the cost of the insurance is so much lower. We have products out there, 2 to 3 products with limited distribution. Buckley Group is one of the companies that can use them. And I'll show you an exact study where some of the companies can't be used. So in other words, MS, which is a large investment firm, and everybody will know what that is, comes and tries to buy the product because they want to eliminate me. And guess what? They can't sell the product. They don't have distribution to this product. So this is something you'd have an advantage working with the Buckley. First case we're going to look at is Vinny. And Vinny is a 70-year-old concerned with the collateral climbing way out of hand. At the point that he cares about the death benefit, but his estate hasn't grown too much for several reasons. He's semi-retired. Caps in his particular case fallen down to below 7%. His high cap at 100% was 6.95, and interest is increased by triple. So had a little bit of an issue. So when he came to us, we took 5.5 million in cost basis to pay down his present loan. So now you're taking a $5.5 million out of the loan scenario, completely gone. He can pay it back without any cost, taxes, nothing to him. And we pay that back. And what that allows to happen is obviously you're not paying interest on 5.45 million. But now I have less money to 1035 exchange. But I exchange it over to a product that went from a 6.95 cap to a 10% cap. The next thing I did, I reduced his COI so much, we increased his death benefit from the present to 6 million more. So we basically took his death benefit and increased it, which is pretty good. So let's take a look at how this looks like in the case. So his total cost with company we used, $62,000 for the cost of the insurance on a 71-year-old, and actually 70, a year later be 71. Standard, non-tobacco, 42 for the rider cost, which included the 8 million death benefit and the 5 million rider for a $13 million total death benefit with the cash value, 19 million. So we increased his gross $13 million death benefit to a $19 million death benefit. Pretty good scenario for this client, extremely happy. He now originally had a $15 million death benefit. Now he has a 19 million gross minus the loan and reversing and giving the collateral back to his family. Next case, case number 2, comes out with Steve. Now, this is a really interesting case because this gentleman was in great shape. We were, I hate to say this, but we were close to, we're in the 8th year of the policy. Within the next 24 months, we anticipated paying the bank back. Interest rates started going up, but in his case, again, when the insurance company should have been increasing their caps, they were dropping their cap. But he was still in a very, very advantageous situation, working with one of our banks, that relationship bank. So he gave them the money. They did investing for him. And by giving him the money, he got one of the best interest rates out there, under 5%, even in this marketplace. So he was in a very favorable position, but when the cap fell to 6%, he also had grown a little bit. He goes, Kenneth, is any way I can get more death benefit without a lot of additional cost? That would be wonderful. Steve, let's take a look. So this is what we came up with. Instead of 1035 exchanging and paying back the bank, we just left the money alone. 1035 exchanged. And when I say here, we created 4 more buckets. What we do at the Buckley Group that a lot of people don't do is we have our premiums coming due. If we're 10 premiums, 8 premiums, 12 premiums, whatever the amount of premiums we're going to pay into the policy, we have different months for each premium. Obviously, if we have 15, we're going to have 3 additional extra buckets into the policies. So in this case, he had only paid 8 premiums and he was in that good a shape that with the new company, instead of having that 6% cap, actually 5.95, we end up having a 10% cap. The COI is lower, but it's not that much lower than what his COI was with his other company. But we took his death benefit from 15 million to 25 million. So let's take a look at how we did that. Cost of the insurance with his previous company in the year that we moved it, $112,063.62. His total cost with us, 39 and 738, about 78,000. So, $30,000 different, not a ton, but take a look. We took the $12 million, I'm sorry, the rollover of $11 million, rolled everything over. That gave us a total basic death benefit of 24 million, but his gross death benefit is 35. So $35 million death benefit, netting him out the 24 versus the 15 that he had. That's a pretty good scenario. Now, let's do a comparison. Old company, new company. 78,394 in COI. In total other rider costs. Never put riders on policies because if the insurance company is giving you a rider or they're giving you a special kind of product. I love it when they have all these different names with the different products. You don't think that costs the client money? Wait until I show you a couple more samples. This is exactly where the clients are paying. Keep it simple, stupid. Salesman, however you want to put it. I like saying stupid because when you look at these riders and you look at the advent costs, you can't believe what happens to clients if you have 1, 2, 3 years in a row without any return. Lowest COI in the industry, outside the top 10. Current cap rate, 10%. Never gone below 10% since inception. Very proud of the product doing that. This cap was under 6, 5.95. He had 8 buckets because he had 8 premiums. When we roll the money over every single month, we take a 12th of whatever's in the bucket in the fixed account, which isn't a bad fixed rate, by the way. It's 4%, no, 4.25 and 4.5. And we're taking that money out, and that money's going in, a 12th is going into the S&P 500. So we're going to have 12 separate buckets of the S&P 500. And I'm going to show you how that works because you'll see in a later sample of how that looks over a 10-year period. 12 buckets, 8 buckets. Loan rate when you borrow the money to pay the bank back. Currently, it's 4%. Their current rate was 5%. But our guaranteed rate that the maximum they can charge a client, 6%. That's 50% less than his old company. So here you are paying the bank back. And, listen, I'm 70 years old. My son who works for me is 38. My other son is 21, who's in the business. And guess what? I'm not going to be here 20, 30, 40 years from now, but they're going to be here. This makes a big difference. You have one of our clients who's 92, 93, 94, 30 years from now, 20 years from now, 15 years from now, and they get charged 12% when they're paying the bank back. That policy has to blow up. It has to. We prefer to pay the death benefit. And I've paid a lot of them. And there's nothing better than when you pay that death benefit out. It's a sad state of affairs when a lot of times the patriarch of the family has passed away. But to think that they did all that work and they passed it on to the next generation because of that. It's so important. They didn't work for nothing in giving it to the IRS. Okay, case number 3. And I'll answer questions on each one of these cases if you have them. Case number 3 is Barry. Barry's an interesting guy, 58 years old. His collateral was going up, 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 up. We do not have the loan with him. He's got the loan with his private banker, who's given him a better rate than I could get him. And basically, they wanted the insurance, but they couldn't touch us with the insurance. The product that they sold him was a policy that was not performing. Pretty famous company. Does not want to lower the death benefit. So that was his big thing. Ken, I want to move it because this collateral is starting to kill me, but I want to lower that death benefit. I don't want to lower the death benefit. So we recommend the client to pay a little bit more out of pocket. The client's paying $150,000 a year. He needs to pay more. He needs to pay closer to whatever the total interest is for the next couple of years. He does have a good rate, so it's not that much for him. He's a multi-zillionaire. But created cost averaging using the 1035 exchange. So instead of going into all these different strategies, the Charlie Chan strategy, the John Hancock strategy, I didn't mean John Hancock. I meant the guy who signed his name. So 1035 exchange, the total amount of money. So we lowered his cost of insurance by 80%. And that's a lot because of admin costs plus premium costs. He doesn't have to pay a premium charge with us because he's not borrowing an additional premium. So when I sent him the first email, I said, please see the cash cost of the insurance, the COI comparison between your last company statement in 2024 and the product we discussed, and I showed you the sample. On page 2 of the company attached, we'll highlight the expenses at $496,775.28. The second attachment is the COI for 2025 on page 1, totaling $94,750 for the same death benefit. In addition, we've attached an existing client's return using the 8.4% return over the last 10 years. So the printout that I show you showing the 8.4 is not from the Buckley Group. Please go back. Thank you. It's not from the Buckley Group. This is from the insurance company. So next. This is what his statement looked like. You got 218 for premium charges, 101 for cost of the insurance, 90,000 for riders, 85,000 total expense charge. Now, we're going to do some additional premiums in the future, but let's take a look at the total cost and the charges. 66,000 and 28,000, which comes out to the total of $94,000 of total expenses. Now, I want to go back because I want to see the death benefit on that. And we're looking at a $60 million death benefit. Gross. This next illustration is what I was talking about. This is basically a client who started his policy in 2011. Now, this isn't like a Fidelity where Fidelity goes around and says, hey, during this 10-year period, this is what we got. We got a 14% return on our product. Well, did you really get 14? You picked that particular date. This is his issue date. And this is 10 years later from his issue date. These are his 8 payments that he put into this policy. 8 payments. And what do we see here? Caps were a little higher at 13. They got to 14. And then they got all the way down to 9. But what was the net return on this IUL? 8.4%. 8.4% return. That's pretty damn good. It's a life insurance policy. It's not an investment. It's a life insurance policy. And like I like to say to the investors, you stay in your window, we'll stay in ours. So for an insurance cost, that's a wonderful product. We have a client, age 70, in case number 4. Name is Rich. This is the client that I'm the proudest of ever doing business with. for a couple reasons. This gentleman ranked 167th in volume of premiums sold a couple years ago in business. So his company sells a lot of term policies, probably one of the top ones. I'm not talking about ranking 167th as an individual. I'm talking about ranking 167th as a total company. For 5 straight years, he did over 1.72 billion in premium. Was trying to get insurance for 5 years, tried everywhere, tried the company that he sold coverage with, couldn't insure him the way he wanted to for the amount of money that it would have cost him. So needed this large death benefit. Came to me, heard about me, and what ended up happening was we sat down with him and said, I don't know if I can do anything. I used a limited distribution product exclusive to the Buckley Group, and several other people have this, but there's only 4 or 5 of us across the country that do. So you have to get licensed with us to get it. Structured interest to be spread out over a 10-year period. Got a number that he felt comfortable with. Got us a bank that was okay with what he paid in interest payments. Got a company that was okay with the interest payments. They ought to be okay because basically he's paying down the loan the first 4 or 5 years, as you'll see in the program. We got him a preferred rating. Death benefit is over 40 million on a 70-year-old. So in this particular case, he needed this death benefit if something were to happen prior to him retiring. So the way we broke this down, it's really something he needs for the next 10 years. He's going to keep it because he says there's no way I'm going to get rid of it. But what I liked about this case, we use attorneys across the country, some of the best there are. The Buckley Group pays for that. And I do that because I want the structure to be exactly the way the client wants it. And I also want it to be income and estate tax free. And I'm willing to pay for that versus some of these people that are extremely wealthy that don't have an estate planning attorney that want to use their local real estate attorney that they use every day, which is insane. But by using some of the best in the business, that's what we do. Now, we pay for that cost because I want to make sure it's done right. This trust was one of the most incredible trusts I've ever seen. I've seen a lot. He had in his trust where if his grandchildren or great-grandchildren want to start a business, the money that's in the trust can be used to help them start the business. So they go in front of the 4 people that are on the trust board, and we're going to be used a trust company, and then they explain their business idea. They get an interest-free loan to start the business and to grow the family wealth. How great is that? What a great incentive. If anybody has any issues with drugs or any issues of not working and whatnot, they don't get any kind of distribution whatsoever. College education is totally paid for. Masters, want to become a doctor, totally paid for. He put so many neat things in his trust. I was so impressed with it. And we get to see those, and we paid for it. It cost me a pretty good penny, too. But obviously, we made a pretty good penny on the premium when you see it. The premium is 4.592250. We pay down the interest in the first year. By the way, we're renewing this for the second year. We pay down the interest again. So there's an additional cost for paying the interest down. And how we did it, he decided, I want to pay into the ILA because I want to gift some of this money, $1 million per year. He is doing so, as you can see in this highlight. I'm going to expand that. Would that make it larger, Joe?
It should.
No. Okay, that's oh no, that's a little too large. Yeah, that's okay. Can you move it for me as I point out?
Yeah.
So what I want to point here is just that the 4.5 million premium. Then, as you can see, the interest rate is 3.5. So basically, 839,000 is excess money. He's paying down the note. By the way, we're in the second year of the policy. You know what the collateral is? We'll go to that in a moment. Year loan balance is 3.7 from 4.5. Cash surrender value is 3.8. It's actually more. We've gone through the first year. He has 0 collateral. So by getting that 10% on the product, Actually, he might have had a cap at 11, but 10, 11% on the product, he gained over $400,000 in the policy. Now his death benefit, put it back to normal, starts at 39 million, grows to 54 before we paid the bank back. Now remember, at 85 years old, if he is unhealthy, we are not paying the bank back. Why are we not paying the bank back? Because he has a $54 million death benefit. It's going to cost him $13 million to pay the bank back. He may say, I would prefer to have that death benefit. Fully understand. Makes a ton of sense. So interesting case. Here's a gentleman that sells insurance. He bought the policy from the Buckley Group, but because he understood that this makes a ton of sense, and wonderful for everybody. Worked out great. Again, it was a little bit of a mistake. I've been in the business since 1979, so been in the business a very, very long time, 46 years, and I use about 8 carriers. I'm down to about 4 or 5 of them. And I look for the lowest COI in the industry. I look for less bells and whistles because those bells and whistles cost you $400,000 and $500,000 in advent costs, rider costs. You don't need that. We have about 20 banks currently that we use, and we're going to give a client at least 4 bank options. Let them choose. We're going to put it in their hands. What are you looking for? Pay interest every single year? Great. This is what we need to do. I want to pay more of the interest. We have clients now, when Joe and I do the presentation for a client, a lot of our clients say, can I pay more? We're recommending you pay more because let us show you what the collateral is going to look like if you pay more and there's no return for 3 years. You're still going to be in good shape. The whole idea about premium financing is to get the insurance for the lowest possible costs. So adding those additional riders and costs to the policy with premium financing, if you're getting it for a death benefit purpose, doesn't make a lot of sense. With that, we've been on the phone for 30 minutes, which is exactly the amount of time I wanted to use. This is how to contact us. I'm going to leave this up for the remainder.
I'll stop sharing.
What's that?
I was going to stop sharing so we could go to the chat.
Yeah, we'll go to the chat. We're going to go to the chat. So just take a picture of this if you're on the phone. If you're getting the recording, obviously you'll see this. The best way to contact Joe is probably through email. The best possible way to contact me is through my phone. I answer the phone 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. No, I don't. 7 days a week, though. I'll answer the phone on any time. If I don't answer the phone, it's because I'm on the line with somebody else. But no issue. Give me a call. I got a case, I think. I've got a situation, I think. I've got a problem, I think. Everything is running great, but if I could get another 5 or 10 million in death benefit here, would it be worth looking at this? I think. Those are scenarios. Call me. Send me an email. Show me what the problem is. Joe and I will evaluate it and say, look it, we can help you. Look it, you got a problem. Look it, you're doing great. So, I mean, I have no issue at looking at programs. We have as many as 10 to 12 people come to us in a week, and we may say 5 or 6 of them don't qualify for premium finance. And then again, we can look in 1 week where we have 8 or 9 of them not only qualify, we can help them and we can save the case. So when you're looking at it as a new case, consider us. If you're looking at it as a saved case, consider us. We're not cheap. I fully understand that. We're 40% of the commission, but we monitor it all the way along. Each one of these cases that we've shown you here, some of them are not going to have any more premium. Some of them at the end of the year, we take a look at what we did and how cost basis is working. And I'm going to tell you something. When you do the cost averaging, the biggest thing about that is I could call up a bank and say, look at, you want my client to give you 300,000. He had bought the S&P at 5,200 the last 3 months in a row. It's coming due in July, August, and September. The S&P is at 6,000. He's going to hit his cap of 11%, 10%, 9%. We have nothing under 10. 10%, 11%, 12%. He's going to hit his cap. you're going to have $300,000 put in there. Can we wait and then do the low point letter at that point and see if we need any collateral? Sure, we can. And when we do that, you know what happens a lot of times? We don't need any collateral because they can see where the S&P is. Now, if the S&P drops 400 points, believe me, or 1,000 points, I get phone calls from the bank. But we monitor that. That's part of what we do because we let you go out there and sell every single day. We're taking care of this case every single day. Talk to people who've done business with me. Sandy Cohen, Todd Hop, Ryan Reynolds, Keith Mader. There's plenty of clients out there, agents that I call clients. Those are my clients that we want to maintain them being happy, and we take care of these cases. This is not as easy as it looks. And we'll teach you how to get your second, third, fourth, fifth case. So let's, Tony, go to the chat room and take a look at a couple of these. Where's the chat?
Hey, Ken.
Yeah,
This is Don. Why don't I read the questions from the chat room? You don't have to monkey with that. You can just talk. How about that?
sounds good.
Okay. Well, the first question is, will the recording be available? And Tony's already answered that. Yes, everyone that's attending will receive an email follow-up in the next day or so where you will get a copy, recording of today's presentation. Second, next question is, who is covered by the additional insured rider, Ken?
The client themselves, the additional insured, meaning it's a term rider.
Understood. Adam Rada, how you doing? Good to see you. He just commented that he knows about one of the cases you were talking about. Okay, next question. Can you please?
Oh, Adam did? Oh,
Yeah, Adam did. Adam did. Can you please share?
What was that comment, Adam?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'll go with it. Can you please share the carrier that you reference with this exclusive product? And I don't know if
Give me a call and I'll be more than happy to discuss carriers. So there's more than one, number one, and we have two carriers that give us, we're not the only ones, believe me, there are other people that do it. But I was in competition with MS, again, or SM, whatever their name is, but you can figure that out. And they tried to replace me, and the company wouldn't give them the licensing. And they're not a small company. They're one of the largest investment firms in the world. And that made me feel pretty good about that. So, and then we charge an additional fee to the client for that conversation. So anyway, I can't. Give me a call. I'll be happy to share it and share you how that works.
Next question is from Jenny Conk. If the policy has been in force for a few years, then the 1035 exchange will be based on the current age, which will significantly increase the cost of insurance, especially insurance that is more front-end loaded. How do you reduce the insurance cost when client is getting older?
As you can see in the sample I did with the 70-year-old, the cost of the insurance was 40% less.
Yeah. So
when you look at these products, it's not just the COI, it's all the rider costs that are involved in it and the advent costs. The other thing that we do when we take the amount of money, so let's say, for example, to answer that, a good one, when you look at that one that, could we go back on that by chance and pull that up? No. Okay. When you look at the one I did where the cost was $496, the other cost was $90. Well, the reason they had 6 more payments, even if we put additional payments in there, our payments were only like 400,000 or 500,000. They weren't 2.6 million. So that was the difference of where the advent costs came in. So in other words, when we roll the money, many times, if we're not paying back the bank a little bit, we're getting more death benefit because the cost of this policy is so less compared to a lot of the other policies out there. It has no fancy anything. They don't have riders that cost all kinds of money. Like a lot of times, the best client you could possibly have to answer that question is a client that says to you, Ken, I see this cashback rider, but I compare it to the one that doesn't have the cashback rider. When I'm 65 years old, it's going to cost me $1.3 million for that rider. Is that correct? And then I look at the guy and I go, this guy's buying, and this guy knows insurance. I said to him, you're 100% correct. Why you don't want a rider unless you want to dump the policy? He goes, if I buy this, I'll never dump it. Exactly. So that's exactly what we're trying to accomplish. But the answer to that is your COI for a lot of companies is a lot less, even though the client's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years older.
So Ken, next question. How much commission do you need on the split? And you said 40%. I understand that. Can you walk through sort of how the fee structure works in terms of what you charge the client, depending on different cases? How does your fee structure work?
First of all, we get paid a commission. If we're using a non-commission product, the client pays us directly what we would have get paid if we sold them a commission product.
Got it. And as you
And
said,
then
you split whatever's paid as part of the case restructuring. You
they're
split
on
that.
the contract.
They
They're
get
on the
60,
contract
40,
with
is
us.
that right?
Yeah, that's correct. They get 60%, we get 40%.
All
And
right.
we have them sign the contract so they get paid no matter what.
And if the client is paying directly, that's split 60-40 as well?
That is correct.
Okay. How old is too old to write a premium finance case?
Presently, that 70 to 74 range, possibly. They have to be healthy. But I would say 70 is a good spot right there as the oldest. But they can be preferred, they could go up to 73, 74, 75. But you also have to get the company to do it, Don, because many of them right now don't. I mean, there are companies out there like Allianz. I don't think they do premium financing over 62 or 60.
Yeah.
So each company has their own criteria for that. So when you have a client you want to run bias, I did submit a 79-year-old female a while ago. We're still waiting for an answer. Very healthy.
Got it. Thank you. Are the cost of insurance numbers guaranteed, and are other expenses a potential surprise? Presumably, I mean, he means with your program.
Yeah. So there's no, obviously we put a sheet in there showing what the costs are. Those aren't the guaranteed costs. Every policy has that. So if this policy was affected on the guaranteed cost, every other policy would be affected. It's kind of funny, Don, and you know this, when one insurance company does something, they all follow suit. So when they're selling us the idea of why the IUL is such a great product, it all kind of cracks me up because they say, well, if interest rates go up, caps are going to go up. Well, everybody started dropping their cap when interest rates went up. So everybody's surprised. And what happened? Now we get negative arbitrages, even though we're hitting the cap, because the insurance company did the opposite, saying what they're going to do. So you have to be prepared for those types of things. And I don't necessarily like it, but the one thing insurance companies are going to always do, there are two things. They're always going to make money and they're always going to protect themselves, but they always pay the death benefit. I've never had a death benefit. Even I mean, I had one a couple of years ago on an agent that when he passed, it was within the 2-year window contestability. They paid that claim in less than 6 weeks. Boom, out. I was shocked. But again, he was healthy. Just so happened to be a freak situation that occurred.
I think I know how you're going to answer this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What banks would approve the loan for cases like this?
Every bank that we have.
And I'm sure the follow-up question is, what are the names of those banks?
Oh yeah, let me give you. Do you want the keys to my house or my car or my house down in Florida, or do you want the keys to the house in the Cape Cod? Which one do you want, Don?
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Off to the next question.
Somebody,
Okay.
you know what will happen? This is what will happen, Don. Somebody will call me and say, I got a call from this guy saying that you recommended him to get along, work with us in the bank.
And so I get back to your original answer, the phone number you showed earlier, right? Give you guys a
Yeah.
call and discuss everything in the context of the case that you guys are working on. So great.
Right. And listen, once we do these, if you get to the point when we have this discussion, I don't need you anymore, leave us. I got to tell you, I've got a couple guys like, I shouldn't give their names, but they know that I would talk about them. But a couple of these guys that I work with who've left and said, I can do it. And 2 years later, I've saved their cases that they did on their own. And they said, I wish I never did that. I go, yeah, no kid, because you don't do it 24/7 like we do. A lot of things hop up and you're not sure what to do. That's really what it comes down to.
Very specialized market for sure. So, okay, next question. Let's see. Okay, this is from Jenny Kong. If the client has paid off the old bank loan first before they can do the 1035 exchange into the new policy, they would use the new bank, right?
Yes, but that's you're kind of getting confused. So when we what we do a lot of times, Jenny, in this, we will take the cost basis, and what the cost basis is nothing more than paying for the premium. So there's no profit in the cost basis. So that's available to you. And when we take that, obviously the policy has several years into it. Well, when you get the cost basis of a policy, you can withdraw that. So you can withdraw it when you 1035 exchange it, or you can pay back the bank. So when I call the bank up, I go to the banker, I go, would you prefer that we go to the company before we 1035 exchange it? And many times the bank will say, I want to deal with the new company because they're the ones that'll be fine with giving us back the money. Most cases, we like to do it ahead of time because we don't want them to pay us the commission on that because we got to give it back to them. So we don't want to do that. So we have the money withdrawn by the existing company, and the bank takes the money because you're paying down the loan by $8 million. That's interest out of there, and they're not happy about it, but they understand that it's saving the product, and the client's going to have a heck of a lot less collateral with 8 million less than the policy, and he's got more death benefit with the remaining 6 million. That's mind-boggling if you think about it, and that's a win-win-win. The client's happy, we're happy, the bank's happy. So the bottom line with that is before you 1035 exchange it, and yeah, obviously it can't be 1035 exchange until the policy is approved and the client proves the thing. That's how we do it. So we do it prior to take it out of the old policy and then 1035 exchange what we need to pay for the new policy based on what they have for death benefit and health wise. I've had a couple of people that are 5 years, 6 years, 7 years older than they were when they started, 8 years older, and we've got a lower rate, less cost, better cap. So you'd be an idiot not to do it. If you think about it, Don, I don't know what you think, but makes sense. I get more death benefit. I'm paying back some of the loan. How is this a wrong thing?
Yeah, I agree with you. It does make sense. And the best part of it is you don't have to guess. You'll do all the comparison and all analysis, and it's transparent. Yeah. If it's not better, you don't do it, right?
Exactly. Doesn't make sense.
It's an X-ray to evaluate what's going on and what options are available, rather than just rolling along blind and then waking up 10 years from now and having disaster. Next question. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm ready to go, buddy.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. I'm glad we had you on, Ken. A couple other questions. So one of them is, and I think I know the answer. It's from Richard Tanner asking, is the 40% split only year one? And I think the answer to that would be no, because you're on the case. It's 40% for any commissions paid, plus 40% for any consulting fees paid initially or in the future related to the case. That would seem to make sense to me. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct. So basically, look, it's not cheap, but this is your involvement in the case. So I've got agents all over the country. So I'm doing a case in Connecticut. All this guy does, I've got a couple of situations, and you can learn a lesson from this. Anybody that's a golfer out of this is one of the things you do. So this guy retired. He's got a place in Florida. He's got a place in Long Island. He goes to the starter of 3 or 4 golf courses that are private that he becomes a member of. And that's a pretty expensive endeavor to be a member of 3 different golf courses. But you know what? How he pays for them? Very easily. He goes to the starter, who is usually retired school teacher, somebody who needs a summer job, retired individual, gives them $500 and $100 bills. When you have the guys show up to play golf, I'm looking for these types of attorneys that I know are members here, because you get a list of members when you are a member of a private club. So I have a list of everybody that's in my club in their emails. So what he does is he says, I want this estate planning attorney, this CPA, this one here. So when one of the guys doesn't show up for them, you call me, I'll be here in 10 minutes, put me in that group. And then when I show up, I'll give you another $100. Then he starts talking about what he does for a living. Then he plays golf with the guy again. And then he gets his clients that way. And then when he goes back up north for the summertime, he does the same exact thing. Makes more money retired than he does when he was working. You know how much involvement he has? I've been to some closings of his. We'll sit there and we'll go, how do you know Sandy? And the client will say to me, who's Sandy? They don't remember who he is. They met him once. And I'm thinking, I'm paying this guy 60% and we're doing the closing. He's not even at the closing. And so your involvement's going to be your input as we go through, but we're going to do all the background. And there's a heck of a lot more background than you could even imagine. And again, very rare. What do most guys do when they say, you got to come up with 300,000 of collateral? They call the client on the phone. They say, you need that 300,000 collateral. But Don, because I do that cost averaging, I might have 400,000 or 500,000 coming in the next 4 months. By doing that, I can call the bank up and say, look, you're going to have a deposit over the next 3 months that'll match 150,000 more than the low point of the 360. Can we wait to do it then? Sure can. And then we'll reevaluate it. And if it does need collateral, guess what it needs? 40, 50,000, which is nothing for these types of clients. But much easier conversation saying we can wait 3 months. You couldn't convince the bank to do that because the bank doesn't work with you like they work with me every day.
I've got another question, but I'm not going to let you answer it, Ken, because I'm going to answer it, if that's okay. And then you can chime in when I'm done. You're going to laugh when I read you the questions being asked. This is from Peter Foley. It's a great question. I'm really glad you asked it, which is, the close is often the hardest thing. Do you like to take the controls for that phase? P.S. Love that you do policy service on a rocket ship. Yeah, exactly. But the question is, Ken, given your shy nature, the question is, are you willing to be involved in the close? And I'm answering this. You don't get to. The answer is, I've worked on major, massive estate planning cases in the premium finance space with Ken, and there is no better closer in the marketplace than Ken Buckley, bar none. That is something that he is unbelievably good at with all different types of clients in this space. And so, that is one of the big reasons to work with Ken Buckley. Anyway, I'm joking. Please comment if you'd like.
Well, the reality is, I don't like, we like closing by like calling one of these clients and say, hey, here, Mr. Client, if you have second thoughts about this, what if we give you 3 names, 4 names, 5 names? And many times, Dawn, they'll call one person, 2 people. I don't know what they say, but every single time the case closes, because they're talking to somebody who's dealt with it and has dealt with me for 6, 7, 8, 10, 14, whatever the number of years are, they know who I am and what I do. That's what closes the case. It's not bells and whistles and numbers or any of that. When they can talk to somebody who's done it and they'll say, I had a year where I had to skip my collateral and I had to skip my premium. Ken found a way to do it with nothing out of my pocket. And then after COVID, we're right back to where we were before and nothing's really changed. Those are the things that you need.
I hear that, and I that makes sense. I also know that your knowledge of this space, a lot of times what clients will do is they'll look at all this and they kind of get analysis paralysis, and the case is just they just kind of drag and drag and drag and drag and drag for months and years. And you have a very unique ability to work with a client and their advisors and get them to move forward immediately. And I think it's one of the most powerful things. You do a number of things for sure, but that is a very critical element for what you guys offer. And I've seen it firsthand over and over and over again with completely different clients. So there's that. So next question. Oh, this is from John Louis. Says, "Thank you, Ken Buckley. I want the key. I want the key to the banks." And he's laughing, but you're going to call Ken. Now let's move. Oh, there was a question I missed. This was from Richard Tanner. He said, "I've never heard of the term advent cost. Can you explain that a little bit?" Go ahead. Advent cost. What's that?
Well, if you take a look, can we pull that slide up?
Which slide would
When I talk about admin costs, I'm talking about all the things that are added to the policy. So when you look at it, go to I can't say the name of the company. So go to the Barry situation, which would be number 3. Try to pull it up on the screen. A lot of policies. Who was the person that said this? Was it Barry?
Richard Tanner.
So, Richard, a lot of the policies, when you look at them, they have a breakdown of when you look at all your costs. One of the things that some of our companies do is they give you a cost comparison. A lot of companies don't do that. But when you look here, you have a premium charge of $218. Well, we'd have a premium charge also if we were borrowing a premium. But in this case, I don't need an additional death benefit, so I don't have that. By the way, he had 6 more premium charges at $218 coming out. I don't have any. Then you have your cost of insurance, 101. That isn't half bad. But guess what? You have a rider charge of $90,000. Well, my charge was less with the combination of rider in that. Then you have an expense charge. Those are advent costs. What's the expense charge? $85,730. Well, the idea of that, it adds up to a total of, 78 versus 496. That's the difference. So the cost of the insurance between the two of them is not that much different, but all those additional costs in there, premium charge and whatnot, is what adds up. And that's coming out for another 6 years. Whereas that's not coming out on the Omaha one. Yep, I said that.
Got it. Next
Okay,
question.
any other questions?
Yeah, I got a couple more, Ken. So,
listen, Don, I got to go to lunch. It's 2:00 in Massachusetts here. My day's getting done.
Hey, we're only 1 after the hour. We're just getting started. Are you kidding me? Okay, here we go.
I'm kidding.
Is there any eligibility criteria to get this kind of policy, or only for high net worth individuals? What are the possible collaterals one could use?
What are the possible collaterals?
Yeah,
there is eligibility.
Can use something other than cash. Can use real estate. Can use.
Oh yeah. So let's go over the first part. There is eligibility for the premium financing. Certain products you have to have a premium of $1 million or more. That's the premium, bare minimum. A lot of that can be excess, which we do put a lot of excess in our policies. We don't get paid a whole lot of commission on those, but I don't care. I need that excess money in there to pay the bank back. Number 2, collateral can be letters of credit. We take brokerage accounts where we put a lien on them. Now, remember the brokerage accounts, because it's a bank you're borrowing the money from, they're going to discount it. Most of the time, it's discounted at 50%. But I've recently have a couple banks, if they're bonds and more secure instruments, they will give you 75% of whatever the value is. The letters of credit are for really real estate rich people who need a death benefit because they don't have a whole ton of cash, but they have a lot of real estate. They get a lot of rents. So what they do is that real estate, they'll usually evaluate it at 50%. So you get a $3 million building, you're able to come up with 1.5 million in letter of credit. So many times when I have business owners, like I have 3 brothers that have these policies where they have a building they own that's worth 20 million. They got a 10 million when I secured this one. They got a $10 million letter of credit, but they didn't get a letter of credit. They got a line of credit. They only needed 3 million of the 10 million for the line of credit for the policies. The other 7 million they use and borrow and pay back all the time. They couldn't get a line of credit, and they love it that I gave it. Now on the 3 million portion of it, they can't borrow any. They can borrow the 7 million. If they don't borrow it, it doesn't earn any. They don't pay any interest on it. But on the letter of credit, usually a charge between 1% and 3%. Normally for good customers, it's 1%. I've gotten it down to as low as a half a point for the letter of credit, but that's a tax deductible item too. So that's a good feature of it.
All right, last question, then we'll wrap it up. This is from Jenny Kong. If the client is paid off, so the client has to pay off the old bank loan first before they can do the 1035 exchange into the new policy and use the new bank, right?
Wrong. So in the example that I gave before of the individual that wanted to get a little higher death benefit, he rolled the entire amount of money over. So go to Steve, which would be number 2, Joe. So when you take a look at number 2 here, this gentleman was actually in not bad shape. He goes, I need more face amount. I go, let's not go out there and buy another policy. Let's see if we can just 1035 exchange this. So what we did in this case was 63-year-old. The reason he was upset was the cap fell below 6%. It was 5.95, and he needed additional coverage. So we 1035 exchanged it. When we 1035 exchanged the money, the new bank paid back the old bank. Actually, no, we didn't change the bank. We left the bank alone. All we did was exchange it. They had to take their lien off and put the lien on the new policy, which is a little bit of a process too. But
yeah, substitute the collateral. I understand.
Yeah, they're just substituting the collateral. But with the 10% cap, we went from 15 million to 20 million, 24 million.
Gotcha.
And we did it at a pretty different cost, but we took the whole $11 million.
Well, Ken, we really, really appreciate your time today. This was a great presentation, and I think it's great what you're doing to help cases make sure they keep going the right way. Any closing remarks for everybody? Go ahead, Ken.
No, listen, give us a call. We're going to post that page again, or just post it up for people to get that came. And then what we'll do is just give us a call. We'll be happy to talk through any case, work through them, figure it out, and get them to work. So that's like the key factor.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Yep. Thank you, Tony. Bye-bye. See you, Don.